Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro, and welcome to Grandma Has ADHD. I'm a certified senior move manager and owner of Silver Linings Transitions, where I help people navigate life's big transitions. But here's the thing, I spent years helping families move through change while completely missing the pattern that was running through my own life. I'm the daughter of two ADHD parents, the mother of three ADHD children, and yep, I have ADHD too. For years, I didn't have the language or understanding for what that meant. But becoming an ADHD coach and specialist, that's been absolutely game changing. Not just for how I work with my clients, but for how I relate to my family and honestly, for how I understand myself. I even wrote a book about it called This Explains So Much. This podcast is for all of us who are discovering ADHD later in life. Each week, I bring you conversations with industry experts and people sharing their own ADHD journeys, real stories, real strategies, and often a little too much information. If you're loving what you're hearing, please share this podcast, leave us a review, and find me at jamishapiro.me. That's JamiShapiro.me. Whether you're over 50 and just getting diagnosed, or you're recognizing patterns you've lived with your whole life, this is your space to navigate ADHD with others who get it. So grab your coffee and get comfortable and let's dive in. So if you've been listening to the Grandma Has ADHD podcast for any length of time, you have heard me speak about the Sparkler Society and how it's coming in July. Well, I am really excited because waiting is horrible, even for me. And in June, we are opening our doors for a trial run. This is going to be absolutely free. It's an opportunity for you to join the community, find out what it's about, and help us kind of work out the kinks. So if you like what you hear, if you're looking for authenticity, you want to come as you are, you want to get your shit together with other people who want to get their shit together, then I would love for you to find me at jamishapiro.me. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me, and find the Sparkler Society where you can join the wait list. And in June, we're going to kick it off with our first 14-day challenge. We are going to tackle the bathroom. And if you join us, you're going to know why we picked the bathroom. So I cannot wait to get started. This community is going to change your life. So hope you enjoy the podcast. Can't wait to meet you in person. Get ready to meet someone who's been transforming home care in Arizona for 3 decades. Our guest today is Bob Roth, managing partner of Cypress HomeCare Solutions, a company he helped build with his family back in 1994. That's become a pillar of compassionate care in the community. Bob brings nearly 36 years of experience across consumer products, healthcare, and technology to the home care industry, and his leadership hasn't gone unnoticed. He's been named CEO of the Month, a Healthcare Heroist finalist, and won the Better Business Bureau's prestigious Better Business Ethics Award twice. But Bob doesn't just run an award-winning agency. He's also a voice for aging adults through his radio show, Health Futures, Taking Stock in You on Money Radio, and his monthly Aging Today column. Here's what really sets Bob apart. In 2017, Governor Doug Ducey appointed him to Arizona's Governor's Advisory Council on Aging, making him the first home care agency owner in the council's 40-year history to serve in that role. He sits on the board of directors in the Home Care Association of America, works with Duet Partners in Aging, and in 2019 was honored with the Home Health Care News Future Leader Award for elevating the entire industry. Whew, I'm already tired. And by the way, I don't have my glasses on, which means that my contacts make it so that I'm like reading fuzzy. When he is not championing better care for older adults, you'll find Bob with his wife, Susie, their 3 daughters, and their pet therapy dogs, Ruby and Lacey, probably on a golf course, tennis court, or hiking trail. Please join me in welcoming the passionate, pioneering Bob Roth. And for any of you who didn't put the pieces together. Yes, he is a member of the ADHD club. He is not a grandma, but I heard Bob. I met Bob at the Certified Senior Advisor Conference and got to hear him speak. And I think yours was one of the absolute best presentations. And of course, when I hear somebody that just reeks of ADHD, I have to walk up to them and ask the question. And Bob said yes. And I said, well, with that, you have to come be on my podcast. So I apologize for all of the stumbles, but Bob, I keep it real because when you have ADHD, and you probably relate, we make mistakes all the time, and I don't beat myself up about it. I just show everybody that it's completely okay to fall down and pick yourself up and laugh. So hi.
Well, I'm completely honored, Jami, to join you here on your podcast. And, I love being vulnerable, and I'm okay with that. And I sent you a quick bio. I think you grabbed one of my older ones. So I just want you to know it's 45 years, not 36 anymore. And we've won a few more awards along the way, but that's okay. You know what? I love what we do. And what we do is we care for people. And it is no greater honor than to care for people that once cared for us. And we owe it to them. And I have found some great passion in the work that I do. And, it's one of those things that, and it's a cliche, and we've heard it over and over again, but if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And Jami, you epitomize that. I mean, you have a business other than this podcast. You help people in the senior world move and consolidate and get through this journey. And you obviously, and this is your show, so I'm not going to interview you. I do a radio show podcast, but you obviously saw this happening over and over again because there's so many people like you and me that are really undiagnosed, and they are challenged every single day. But I really believe at the end of the day, and our audience is going to hear this over and over again, and that is we have to know what our weaknesses are, and it's our job to make them our strengths. Taking our kryptonite and making it our superpower. I mean, you would never know. I used to have a speech impediment, and
wow.
I've been hosting a radio show now for 13 years, and I podcast as well. So, I love people. I've learned a lot, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the blessings that I've been given in life. I have a beautiful wife, been married 36 years. I have 3 daughters, and you got a chance to meet one of them in Baltimore, which happens to be my hometown. And the conference we were at was the Certified Senior Advisor Conference. And what a great conference. That was my first one. And I appreciate the accolades of my presentation, but I'm used to talking to home care people and really talking to people that are working in the aging service world in multiple disciplines, and really talking about the work that we all do every single day was really gratifying. And it really felt like I was among my people in my village, beyond with my ADHD people, but other people that are helping serve our aging population.
Well, speaking of ADHD, I would love to hear about your ADHD journey, but it's interesting because, some of the strengths of people with ADHD are that we tend to be entrepreneurs. We see things when, something is missing and we fill in the blank. We're very industrial. We are able to, like I said, put pieces together, but we also have a heart to serve. We are very, very, we have a strong sense of social justice. We want to make sure that the world is a fair place. So here you are epitomizing that, owning a home care company. So anyway, take us back. Take us to little Bob Roth and your journey.
Well, I mean, look, I remember only so little. When you get to 63, the hard drive gets full and you have to start dumping cash so you can make new memories. But I do remember, I definitely had some learning disabilities. There's no doubt. And if my father were here, I lost him 3 years ago. And he, and like anyone's parents, they're your biggest advocates. They're going to fight for you. They're going to tell you that you're wrong. So I remember doing some testing, and I think it was with B'nai B'rith, where they had this testing that they could do for young children and testing them where they're at, and even children that are in at the time high school in terms of testing to see what colleges they would get in. At least the one in Baltimore had that, and they basically when I tested, they said that I tested off the chart, not good, but bad. And basically, they used the word that begins with an I and ends with a T, and said that to my dad, that your son
Ah,
is an idiot.
an idiot.
And my father was pissed. He just said,
Uh-huh.
he's not. He's not. So, I mean, look, I was a little slower than most people. I mean, I definitely had reading comprehension issues. I could lose, track of my thoughts and or start thinking about other things that are coming into my mind. I mean, just distracting me beyond no ends. I was in a special class for first and second grade, and
Mm.
I did take the short bus in the afternoon to a special school for learning.
Wow.
So, I mean,
Wow.
I
So
did first and second grade. And, Jami, you're the first one that's really brought that out of me. So many of people are listening to this for the very first time. Yes, I was on that short bus that people talk about. But,
you know,
I worked hard, and, I had siblings, and I wanted to be able to keep up with my bigger brother. And that was a big deal for me. And,
mhm.
look, I can't say that I'm completely cured, but I mean, I used to take Ritalin, and I
Mhm.
can't tell you what doses I took it in, but I did it in first and second grade. I don't know if I did it beyond that, but I don't take any medication now. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I'm very cognizant how I can lose train of thought.
Mhm.
And, Jamie, the world that we live in today is just so different, and it is for people that have learning disabilities, especially ADHD or ADD. It's coming at us so fast, the distractions, the squirrel. I mean, these devices. And I have so many different communication channels, whether it be my Teams channel with my Cypress HomeCare Solutions team, whether it be my email, whether it be my text messages, whether it be Instagram or LinkedIn. By the way, for our listeners, if you're not using LinkedIn, you should. If you're in the business world, it is the best social media. I probably would say stay off the rest of them, but
Mhm.
LinkedIn, if you want to be a continuous learner, I learned so much by people I follow and read the stuff that they post. But it's harder, Jami, just to bring it back. It's harder to really stay focused, and I really believe that every night I always write down what my priorities for the day. I don't necessarily get to them all. It's just really hard, but I try to accomplish as much as I can. But
Sure.
yeah, I'm one of those people that has overcome it,
Uh-huh.
and I know it's a disability for me, but I work at it every single day, and I would imagine it's not going to get easier as not only that we get older, but we have more bombardment of information coming at us, and it's harder for us to process and prioritize.
Right. So there's a lot that I want to unpack with you. And I think, you're probably going to bring people to this audience who haven't really discussed ADHD. So it's a good opportunity for me to educate you and our listeners. And I will say that I hear a lot of your story in other people, which is, don't have high expectations for your child, but the one thing I do want to say that I don't like the word disability. I definitely think that, it is a disability when you have dyslexia or dyscalculia or, one of those things. I mean, but I also think we need to reframe it as a brain wiring difference. I will share with you that I have a significant person in my life who has dyslexia and discovered that actually, if you're dyslexic, you're more likely to be a billionaire because your brain thinks differently, and we no longer call it ADD. And that's one of my little things that gets to me when someone says, I don't have ADHD, I have ADD. Like, there's a distinction. And the DSM-5 changed it. And even though you may not have a hyperactive presentation where people don't see it in your body, you have the brain, Bob. You just talked about that brain that just is always going, or you can't always, go exactly where you want it to go. So one of my things, I'm passionate on two fronts. One, we completely share, and that is I hate the word anti-aging. I had cancer when I was 34. And you can bet, as a 34-year-old woman, I wanted to age. So to say anti-aging is a disservice to the process of aging. So that's one soapbox.
And by the way, we could do a whole show on anti-aging. I,
Then
I'm
yes,
just, I'm just saying.
then
I
we
think aging's a beautiful thing, and at 63, it's a blessing to still be here.
then let's talk a little bit about because I haven't done one about not calling it anti-aging. So
Well,
after
we
I
can do
finish,
that when you come onto my show. I mean,
okay.
right? This is your show, so I want
No,
to
I
make sure.
actually wanted to talk about something that So I think anti-aging is the perfect thing for us to discuss. But I just wanted to make sure. And then the other one is when someone says that they have ADD. To me, there's like a judgment in that. I don't, or I just have a little of this, because I'm all about living authentically and stepping into exactly who we are. And rather than being ashamed of it, saying yes and like, look what you've done. Like, you know what? ADHD does not need to be I can't think of the word. You know, when you have ADHD, sometimes you can't think of words.
You don't have to be labeled with it. And you know what, Jamie? I mean, to be really candid with you, I agree with you. It's not a disability. That's why I don't tell people I have it. Because if I tell people I have it, they're going to think differently about me.
That's a very
and you know what? While I go unmedicated, look, this is about the medication I use. There you go. I'm a big tea drinker, but prior to drinking tea, I was drinking sodas and Red Bulls and all kinds of things to just try to keep everything in check. But it's all about finding balance, and I think I found balance, but it wasn't easy. It really wasn't. I mean, you got to work things out, but I don't see it as a disability. I may have used the word as a disability, but I wouldn't label myself as that. I wouldn't come out and tell people that I'm that. But if someone asked me, do you have ADHD? Yeah, I believe I do. I still do. But I've worked through a lot to get to where I'm at today.
We're very resilient. I think we have to be, because when you make so many mistakes all the time, you have to be able to pick yourself up and be like, okay, and move on. And, one of the things that's unfortunate that I see in the ADHD space is you see people like us who take it and work it to its advantage and learn how to adapt. And then you have the victim mentality, which is I have this and woe is me, and and I'm really doing everything that I can, which is why I broadcast my mistakes. Like, listen, we all make them. It's just how we talk to ourselves after we do. And one of the things that I've discovered is I've never met somebody with ADHD who wasn't bright or had some like amazing talent in some area. And when they wanted to do something, look out, because that's going to happen. So I'm going to actually take a pause. Go ahead.
I agree. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but I agree. And I also think that it is a trait, or should I say it is something that,
a brain wiring
can pass on to generations.
Yes.
And I have 2 children that are. And both are immensely successful in their careers. You got a chance to meet one of them. And I'm going to tell you, I mean, the only time I think that we, as people that are diagnosed with it and looking to overcome it, that we should share it openly is when we are, especially as children, when we are working and studying. ADHD kids need a little bit more time to take tests.
Yes, they do. They need a lot more than that.
They need a little bit more time for learning. And that's okay for you to let your teacher know and let your instructors know.
Yeah, I will tell you, Bob, that what I'm discovering, and this is going to really impact aging as well. And I want to take a pause, but I'm going to tell you a few things or share a few things that I want to discuss. You mentioned that you suspected that ADHD would get worse as we age. And I want to say that is what I am learning and hearing. And we're going to talk about why that is. So I think that's important. But I also love to ask one other thing, and then we'll go on. The biggest challenge that I'm learning in my work with ADHD is actually the distractibility, but the emotional dysregulation actually is one of the most significant impacts of ADHD. And that is, we are so sensitive. We're sensitive to criticism. We're sensitive to other people's feelings, that sometimes we overreact in a way that can cause issues in our family and issues in our friendships and cause social isolation, which you talk about anti-aging, that's not going to help us age successfully. So we're going to take a pause, because I always like to, and I don't know about your cast, but mine is everything is self-funded, self-whatever. And so I put a little commercial in for Silver Linings Transitions, which, as you mentioned, is my move management and home organizing company in Southern California. We're in San Diego and the Coachella Valley area, but we're part of a national organization, which I hope you've heard of NASM, the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. Good, you're nodding your head, yes. And then I actually have started something called the Sparkler Society. And it's basically for later life, undiagnosed and diagnosed women who are discovering ADHD and its impact. And I said, let's not do life on hard mode and alone. Let's do it together. So it's a community-based membership where you get to learn about ADHD, create scaffolding and structures. We have something called the worry circle because people with ADHD tend to worry a lot. So we should never worry alone. Come to the chat under the membership and discuss your worries with a group of people who understand you. So we're going to take a pause. And then when we come back, I'm going to ask you my button question, which is, if you've not heard my podcast before, you have, then you know the button question. So we're going to pause and come back with Bob Roth of Cypress HomeCare in Arizona. I used to dread visiting my mother. Because of the clutter, the piles, the chaos, we all experience clutter differently. For me, it was a source of anxiety and stress. I'd try to help and she'd get defensive. We were both frustrated and it was destroying our relationship. Then we discovered something that changed everything. My mother had ADHD and she'd been living with it undiagnosed for over 76 years. Suddenly, it all made sense. The clutter wasn't laziness. The disorganization wasn't a choice. Her brain was wired differently, and no amount of willpower or traditional organizing advice was ever going to work. That discovery became my life's work. It's why I started the Grandma Has ADHD podcast. It's why I became an ADHD coach and specialist. And it's why I am so passionate about helping women like my mother and maybe like you. Because here's what I know. Clutter affects us emotionally and physically. It damages relationships, it creates shame spirals, and the overwhelm of not knowing where to start keeps you frozen. But it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's brave. If you're in the San Diego or Coachella Valley area, my team at Silver Linings Transitions can come to your home. We'll help you tackle the clutter with compassion, not judgment. I also work with women virtually through one-on-one ADHD coaching. And if you are overwhelmed with clutter, I can connect you with trusted resources in your area. Visit jamishapiro.me to get started or grab my book, This Explains So Much, on Amazon. My mother and I got our relationship back. You can get your peace back too. That's JAMISHAPIRO.me. Moving can feel overwhelming, whether you're downsizing, relocating, or helping a loved one transition. There are so many decisions to make, details to handle, and emotions to navigate. At Silver Linings Transitions, we believe every move should be magical, not stressful. We're more than movers. We expertly guide you through the entire process and do our best to alleviate your concerns. From the moment we meet, you'll feel comfortable because we will listen to your needs and wants and work together to create a personalized plan that honors your memories and your cherished belongings while helping you embrace your next chapter. We visit your new space and create a detailed floor plan, ensuring your furniture and treasured belongings will fit safely. We handle the logistics so you don't need to worry about anything, from sorting and packing to coordinating the sale and donation of unwanted items. Our professional team uses efficient, eco-friendly bins and handles every detail with care. We coordinate with our vetted moving partners, oversee the logistics, and ensure nothing is left behind, even packing your refrigerator items. Here's where the magic happens. We don't just unpack. We recreate the feeling of home. Using photos from your previous space, we thoughtfully arrange your furniture, hang your pictures, and set up your kitchen and bathroom so everything feels familiar from day one. When you walk into your new space, it's not just moved in, it's home. Your coffee pot is ready, your favorite photos are perfectly placed, Your bed is made and your new chapter begins with comfort and joy instead of chaos. This is how Silver Linings Transitions makes moves magical. We handle the emotional lifting and the logistics so you can focus on what matters most, settling into your new home. Because every move deserves a silver lining. Hi, I'm Jami Shapiro. I am an ADHD coach and the founder of Silver Linings Transitions, where we do home organizing and move management. And, I did not know that I had ADHD for years. And I remember personally hiring an organizing company to come in and help me because I could just never get it together. And it really wasn't until I understood ADHD and its impact that I realized why. And so I wrote a book, This Explains So Much, Understanding Undiagnosed ADHD, because I just feel like there's so many answers that people don't even know that they're looking for, especially generations of women who grew up thinking that ADHD was just for the hyperactive little boy. It turns out it's not only a body that can be hyperactive, but it can be a mind that's hyperactive. So you can have a wonderful day and you can have something wonderful happen, and then that one negative thing that happens is going to be the thing that takes you into that spiral, and it's going to be keeping you up at night, and you're going to be ruminating on it. And I think that, we as women carry so much shame and so much how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to have it together. And I remember that was the case for me. I remember, how is it that all of these women have so much consistency and their kids get the sticker charts and everything seems to run well, and I'm the one that's missing parent-teacher conferences and my house, is always in chaos. And then again, that negative self-talk. So my mission is really to educate people who have no idea that ADHD has the impact that it does. And it's to connect you to other people who get it and who will make you feel that you aren't alone, you're not crazy, you're not lazy, you're not stupid, you're not too much. You just have a brain that was wired differently. And I can't wait for you to join me in the community that I'm building, the workshops that I'm creating, the book club that I'm hosting, because I know that I am going to make a profound difference in your life. All right. So, Bob, here is the button question. Okay, you remember the button question, the Staples easy button?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you
yeah.
if you could press that easy button and have ADHD go away, you never had it your entire life, you don't have it now, and you will never have it again, would you press that button?
No.
Okay. You paused. Why? Where was the pause?
Well, I had to think about it. I mean, I thought for just a half a second what life would have been like without it. And you know what? I don't think, look, life isn't a dress rehearsal. It's the real thing. It's made me who I am. So I think I think I would be very different if I didn't have it. So
Right.
I may not even be in this field. I really
Yeah.
think that because of my kryptonite, now my superpower, I have a lot more empathy for people. I think I see people very differently. I think that is really, it's defined who I am. So I did need to think about it because I wasn't ready for that question. But, it was one of those deep thought questions. So sorry I didn't respond so quickly. It might be
No.
because I have ADHD and I had a really, what, did she really ask me that?
No.
Good.
I have to say, but if you think about it, Bob, even for a deep thought question, that wasn't a very long pause. We are able to process information,
Right.
really quickly. So, but I don't know about you, but I'm really uncomfortable with the pause, although it's something I need to work on, just like being okay with the quiet and we really need to, in our lives, be more comfortable and initiate those pauses rather than reacting.
So Jami, let me just share this with you. I've been doing public speaking now for 20 years. I used to be the worst at public speaking, and having ADHD made it even worse. I mean, you saw me public speak, so you know how I can do today. But I used to be so uncomfortable. I used to read from a script. It was one of those things that just, I would really sweat out. I wasn't afraid to get up and speak. I've always, stood up and been counted for, but it was one of my greatest weaknesses. And it took me a long time to overcome that. And part of it is being vulnerable. Part of it's being real. Part of it is connecting with people and being authentic, and not trying to be somebody that you're not. I think, that's really, the secret sauce to anything that we do in life, especially in relationships.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about anti-aging, because I am really passionate about that. And I think that when I initially booked you, that was what I thought would be a very cool, let's address some of the things besides ADHD that are, an older audience is going to face, whether they have ADHD or not. Right. So tell me your thoughts on the term anti-aging.
Well, I mean, look, it says that the world doesn't want to age. And you know what? I think it's a gift and a blessing that we are. When you get to 63, I keep losing classmates and friends of mine. And you know what? I want to age. I don't want to stay where I'm at. I want to grow, because with age, you grow. I mean, look, it's experience that we get. And experience is typically what you get when you don't get what you want. And there's a lot to be said when you get experience, and experience really matters. Relationships matter. And, for me, I treasure the relationships I've had. I think the hardest thing for us that are aging, that are given this gift to age, is the losses that we do find along the way. But, just like I take my kryptonites and make them my superpower, I think the way I've overcome that is I've worked on building new relationships. And, we all go through seasons of life. And some of those seasons of life, whether you lost someone because they physically are no longer here because they passed, or you lost someone because the two of you don't value the same things any longer. You've had differences of opinions, or just, some kind of conflict that has caused there to be strife. And it happens with everybody. But, as I coach my children and certainly coach my team, there are different seasons of life we go through. And, this person that you no longer have a relationship isn't a bad person. They just came across in your season of life where it was really good and you had good things happen between the two of you. You just grew apart, and that's okay. So life is more than just a journey. It is so much more than that. And I love life, and I don't think we should be so fixated on anti-aging. Jamie Lee Curtis, whether you like her as an actress or not, I mean, she's been very outspoken about this whole anti-aging movement. And then, I love Ken Dykewell. I read The Age Wave a long time ago, and his wife, Maddie, is on a crusade to really end that term, anti-aging. And she's constantly posting and writing stuff about that. Look, I don't know why we still think retirement should be happening at 65. The biggest challenge we have, Jamie, is that we have 1/3 of our population 65 and older that are solo aging. That means they're aging alone. And if people are retired at 65 and they're not working and they're aging alone, how sad is that? We're humans, man. We are made to interact and to have dialogue and have relationships and have intimacy. I mean, we crave touch. That's what we crave. And babies can get touched over 100 times a day. And we have so many aging adults out there that are 65, almost my age, that are sitting there at home alone, and they don't touch a human, maybe but once a week, if not once a month. We crave a hug. We crave a handshake, even a pat on the back. It just means a lot.
I heard somewhere that we need like 10 hugs a day. That's sort of like what we need to, I don't remember the we need for what, but it just made so much sense to that point. So what can we do? I mean, what is your suggestion for the isolation that we have, going on right now, and combined with the stigmatization of aging, like to that point, like we don't want to embrace. I mean, myself, afraid of the things that are changing. I mean, obviously the physical changes that don't feel good, nobody is happy with that. But like, I wish we could celebrate those lines that come across our face. And, but we're not there.
No, we're not even close to being there. And
Mm-mm.
you're right. I mean, look, what comes along with aging is deficits. We all get them. I mean, my thumb hurts, my knee hurts, I need to get a hip replaced. I mean, these are more common today than they were 25 years ago. I'm coming across people that I just know. I know a woman that had both hips replaced, one month, and 2 months later, she had the other one done. And she's out, active and hiking. I mean, we can fix the parts. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the anti-aging piece is such a stigma. And I think, we need to do a better job as a community, as a society, and even television needs to do a better job. Look, we need to be, we need to have more fellowship amongst fellow humans. We need to be more grateful and we need to have more relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge we have is here in Arizona. It was very different in Baltimore growing up. Is we have walls in our backyards, and California has walls in their backyards. We're not encouraging relationships with our neighbors. I've
Mm-hmm.
lived in the same house for 32 years, and there's some neighbors I've never met,
Wow.
and it's really hard. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the thing is that we need to do more than just be anti-aging. We need to be more human. We need to
Mm-hmm.
be more relational. We
Mm-hmm.
we need to provide more fellowship. We need to be looking out for our neighbors and our brothers and sisters. We need to be more relational. I mean, at the end of the day, it is about the relationships that we make. And I talked about the seasons. People come and go in different seasons of life, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a purpose for every person that has come into our life. But when
Absolutely.
but when it comes to aging, it shouldn't be frowned upon. It is a gift to be able to age, and I'm grateful to be here at 63. I hope
Mm-hmm.
I have at least another 30 plus years left, but
Me too.
I'm working hard at
Mm-hmm.
making sure that I have those. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the anti-aging, and it's happening, and more people aren't talking about it. And I'm not talking about the scalpels, and I'm not talking about the pills or injections that people are getting. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the fact that people are moving, and I'm not talking about the work that you do. I'm talking about moving your body and walking and hiking and running and
Mm-hmm.
doing, exercises and doing some strength conditioning, which is really important for your bones. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part is eating. And we need to be, really understanding what foods we're putting into our body. One of
Mm-hmm.
the things they have going here in Scottsdale is they have a Blue Zone movement here. And if no
Mm.
one's familiar with the Blue Zone Project, Netflix is running it. There's a great book that was written.
By Dan, right?
And you know what? There's a real secret to diet and movement.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I
our,
think connection too.
our generation understands that far better than the last generation. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if we can do some of these things, aging wouldn't be looked upon as so negative with anti. It would be, it should be more revered and something that we should all aspire to do is age.
Right. I think, and you probably will agree with me, that one of the reasons that we struggle so much with aging is that, when you grow up with your grandparents and you're seeing them on a regular basis, their aging process does not jolt you because you've seen it. It's been an evolution. It's kind of like, it's so interesting when you think of a baby that grows into a toddler, that grows into a teenager, that grows into like an adult, like you don't see it happening. It's such a gradual evolution. But when you see your grandparents once or twice a year, and then all of a sudden you see them, then it's like, ooh. And so we're removed a lot from our families and from that aging process. And, as much as, and I'm going to say this, I want to be in a community when I come to the point that I am by myself and I can no longer be around other people and I'm waiting for the caregiver to come in and take, like, there are people, and I know because 90% of people want to be in their home, right? That's why home care companies like yours, exist, because most people want to be in their home and they can't do the activities of daily living on their own. But I want to be around people. I want to, have the activities. I want the meals cooked for me. So I I think that those communities are really, really helpful, especially when we have the adult child that just cannot take the responsibility of caring for a parent and is feeling the guilt, and or they're so far from each other. But that was a lot that I just threw at
No,
you.
listen, it's all good. At the end of the day, I mean, there are two things that every person should work on as they age. They should work on movement, and
Hmm.
they should work on this.
Their brains.
I have my oldest client in my agency's 32 years on service with us. We just celebrated back in November her 108th birthday.
Wow.
NBC here did a whole profile on her.
Yeah.
She gets less than 40 hours of care a week. She lives by herself. At
Wow.
108 years old, she's feisty. She's independent. She does the New York Times crossword puzzle every day. She does connections. She does Wordle. She plays bridge. I mean, at 108 years old, she was a CPA. She's smart as a tack. And, God willing, we've got another couple of years with her because she is just an amazing woman. And, that is what I call, obviously a super ager, one that is aging at a very,
Mm-hmm.
you know, comfortable rate, a rate of aging that, nobody would ever blink an eye and say, I'd take 108 if I'm like Miriam.
Oh,
But
is her name Miriam?
Miriam, yeah, she took really
That,
good care of herself.
that was my grandmother's name.
Nice biblical name, right? Miriam.
It was my grandma.
Yes. So Miriam, 108 years old. But I want to be like that. So I mean, I think to avoid the whole anti-aging, I think this generation, the boomer generation, is going to change it big time. They're out pickleballing. Not that I am yet. I'm still playing tennis. They're being very active, and I think that's really important. Look, they are changing the shape of these senior living communities. There's one here in town that literally has a brew pub and has pickleball courts on their roof. Crazy.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
But he's very in touch with his residents, and they are primarily baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
If you had done that 20 years ago, you would not see anybody in either the pub or the pickleball courts.
No, now Jimmy Buffett had a senior community and Disney's building a senior community. And, I definitely think just like, and I use this example a lot, but it's so true. Like if I grew up watching the Golden Girls, and those women were in their 50s when they were filming, or maybe even younger, but playing women in their 50s.
Yeah, they were young.
I'm going to be 56 at the end of January.
I know.
And I don't look like that.
No, you don't.
Or act like
great. And we're aging differently. I played ball when I was in high school, and I played college lacrosse. These kids today, these athletes, they're monsters. They're huge, and they're fast, and they're strong. We're not building them like we used to. I mean, human beings are being built a lot better than they were back in the day. So, as a result, I think we're aging differently. But I really believe at the end of the day, it's the food we put inside of us.
Yeah.
The ultra processed foods are really bad. The old saying about anything in a box or a can, you should not be eating, and you should really be mindful of what you're taking and the amount of calories and what foods you're eating. That's really the secret to the blue zone.
Right. I was going to say one of the challenges with ADHD actually is some of those food choices, because we act so impulsively, and a lot of times we'll grab the sugar because we're crashing in the dopamine and we need something to give us that upper. And so we don't make the good choices, and we don't prepare food the way that we should, because that's, we have a hard time sometimes with planning things out. We just want to go by the seat of our pants. And so, but I also wanted to share one other thing about one of the benefits of having ADHD as we age, and that is that we are naturally curious. So we don't have those superficial conversations. We want to understand how something works and how you think about something and how you got here. And so that's going to help us to stay connected to other people, but it also helps us to continue to grow. So I did want to highlight one of the
and if I could piggyback on that, that's really the secret to my public speaking. I mean, I couldn't do it. It was really hard. And I just was all in to figure out how I could do it, how I could be like some of the others that were there. And I befriended them, and I learned, and I spent time and invested time, and that's how I became who I am. I really believe In my 45, 46 years of working, I'm a culmination of all the people that I've worked with along the way. I
Mm-hmm.
took all the good. So,
Mm-hmm.
whatever I took good from any of the superiors or supervisors I worked for, bosses, if you would, is really an amalgamation of who I am. It
Mm-hmm.
makes Bob
Absolutely.
Roth who he
Right.
is.
We're
But
sum total.
I've learned along the way. I've learned a lot, and I've leaned in on areas that I knew I was weak in to make it more my superpower.
Good for you. Well, I mean, I think you're an exact example of someone who finds out they have ADHD all this time. It's met with grief and relief. It's the why didn't anybody catch it? What would my life have been like? Right. But then, okay, so this did happen. This is where we are. But like, where do we go from here? And
Right.
that to me is about successful aging. And is there a term you like rather than anti aging? Is there one that you use in your presentations?
I'm glad you brought that up. I really don't think people really take kindly to the word seniors either.
Mm-hmm.
Anti-aging seniors. It's just, nobody
Mm-hmm.
feels like they're a senior. Although, you know, since you're 56, just so you know, most movie theaters will sell you a senior ticket at 55 or older. So if you're not getting that senior ticket, you can get one of those. But no one wants to be considered a senior, So I like to view older people as older adults or aging adults. I really don't use that word seniors. But
Mm-hmm.
anti-aging, I mean, look, I like I said, I think it's so it's such a negative that it's kind of like people refer to home care as non-medical. It just doesn't tell the world what you are. And then anti-aging says that you're going to be Peter Pan and you're never going to age, but it's
Mm-hmm.
true. We all do.
Mm-hmm.
I just think some of us age very differently, and a lot of it is lifestyle. Some of it
Mm-hmm.
might be genetics. At the same time, I mean, I wish more Americans would embrace where they're at.
For
And,
sure.
look, I live here in Scottsdale, and trust me, I think per capita, there's probably more plastic surgeons here than maybe anyone else. And it is amazing, not just women, men too, the lengths that they go to try to
Mm-hmm.
look so different or look
Mm-hmm.
and not
Mm-hmm.
embrace where they are. Like you said, embrace where the lines are in your face. I was telling my wife Susie the other day that I have like a natural ledge now for my glasses. I can put my glasses up here and they kind of like hang out in one of the
Oh.
crevices up on my forehead. You
Uh-huh.
know, I didn't have that before. Now I do. What an advantage. That's a superpower for me now. I don't
I
have to
love
put it on my head. I can just put it here and it just locks in on my forehead.
it. Mm-hmm.
If you can't laugh, then it's like life isn't really worth it. I mean, you should really enjoy life. It's a blessing, it's a gift that we've been given from God, and we should make the most of it. And we should be more, obviously, provide more fellowship and be more present with the people that we're around.
Yeah, for absolute sure. We definitely need connection. So I do want to just go back one more time to the ADHD question, then let you kind of tell everybody how they can find you. You mentioned that you'd sort of built your life to be more successful with your ADHD, that you said, I'm not on Ritalin anymore. What are your tips and tricks that you would share with someone who, I'll tell you, my biggest struggle is my short term memory, my emotional regulation, and my short term memory. And now I wear a smartwatch because I plan to forget. I don't even beat myself up. I just know that that's just what's going to happen with my brain. So tell me how you've built your life to work with your ADHD.
It's being on the schedule. I mean, I think it's really important. I only have one therapy dog now. We lost Lacey. Like I said, it was an older piece that you
Sorry.
read.
Uh-huh.
But my dogs are always getting me up first thing in the morning, and
Mm-hmm.
and they need to get walked and they need to get fed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a yogi, and I love doing yoga, so I try to
Me
get out
too.
the door before 6 a.m. and get a yoga class in.
Good for you. How
So
many days a week do you do yoga?
sometimes as many as 5.
Good for you. Good for
So,
you.
and I've been known to do 6 or 7. But the important thing is that getting on that schedule by 7 o'clock, I've got my first win. And
Mm-hmm.
with yoga, it gives me an opportunity to really meditate. I clear my mind. I'm not thinking about business. I'm really in touch with my breath and trying to hold poses and trying. Sometimes I'm just trying to get through it, just to get to the other side. Because the euphoria when you're done is
Mm-hmm.
just so it's so empowering, and it's like a drug. It's just like, wow, that just felt so good. I'm so glad I got that done and out of the way.
Here's another ADHD fact I'll share with you. And that is that Dr. Ned Hallowell and John Rady wrote a book. The second one that I read was ADHD 2.0, and they specifically mention yoga being beneficial for people with ADHD because the balancing helps the cerebellum, which does something with our ADHD brain. So see, you figured out the natural Ritalin.
I have. And it's just trying to keep that at schedule is really important.
And yeah, I agree with you. We need that anchor in that schedule. Okay. So how can our listeners find you? Who do you want to reach out to you? Because, you've done me the courtesy of giving me your time. So how can I support you?
Well, I mean, listen, I think for both of us, we're looking to solve problems, right? We're trying to help our fellow brothers and sisters out there with whatever challenges they're dealing with in life. And you have found a niche in terms of helping people downsize professionally, and then you saw this niche in terms of helping people cope with or live with and understand that they do have a superpower. It's just how to harness it, right? For me, I think one of the biggest problem solves of not just our generation but humanity is how are we going to care for all these old people? The 65-year-old population is going to double in 2 decades. The 85-year-old population is going to nearly quadruple. And the stressors that are going to be put on our society are going to be like nothing ever before. It's really challenging when people have not planned for long-term care. And I'm going to tell you nearly 50% of the people that call my office or any professional home care agency's office, they find out that Medicare doesn't pay for in-home supportive care services. Some people call it non-medical, some people call it non-clinical, non-skilled, but it is skilled. They're caregivers. And we provide in-home supportive care, helping someone out with activities of daily living. So the challenge that we're dealt with is people haven't planned. And we have 2 major headwinds. The cost of our services are up almost 50% in the last 6 years because the cost of labor has gone up and the shortage of workers. So we have to find solutions, and we're working feverishly. Cypress is as so many others are in the aging service world. And I want our listeners to know and pay attention to this. I hope your listeners, especially the younger ones, I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but if you just graduated college or you're in your early career, start a long-term care fund. Because like I said, there is no safety net. The government's not there to help you. Government doesn't pay for senior living. You deal with this in what you're doing every single day, Jami. I mean, you're taking somebody who lives in a house and all of a sudden they're now in a 10 by 12 room and they're paying somewhere in Scottsdale, you're paying up to $10,000, $12,000 a month. I mean, who really has that kind of money? So plan for that. The other thing is that I want people to realize that long-term care support is something that families can do. And it's a blessing and an honor to be able to help your parents or your grandparents or siblings or any family member out through this journey. And caregiving, it comes in many different forms, whether you're taking someone to the doctor's office, you're running to go to the grocery store or pick up a prescription from the drugstore, or preparing meals. I mean, all of those things are involved in caring for somebody. So, I think what I wanted to take away from this is just the people to recognize this, prepare for this, but also know that there are companies looking to solve for this. And we're utilizing technology, we're innovating, we're trying to figure out how to do more with less. So to learn more about me and this world that I'm talking about, go to cypresshomecare.com. That's our website. But I also encourage you to link into me. I, as well as a lot of the people I follow, are bringing some really, really knowledgeable people to the center of the stage and sharing a lot of information. People, like I said, like Dr. Ken Dykewell and others that are in the aging world that are really sharing some amazing things. Like Dr. Joseph Coughlin from the MIT Age Lab. He just reported from CES. There's some new innovations and technologies that are out there. So I'm just saying, embrace where you're at. You talked about anti-aging. Be comfortable in your skin where you're at right now, but also just be mindful of those around you. Notice those that may be alone. And I ask you, to give good fellowship, maybe knock on their door, check in on people. That's the best way to reach me. Bob Roth at Cypress Home Care is my email address. And Jami, I can't thank you enough for having me on your show. And It's really great to visit with you again after visiting with you in Baltimore. And now
Mhm.
we have this new thing that we talked about in the Baltimore Connection before we started the show.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm going to have you come to Scottsdale,
I'm
come
gonna
in,
have.
and let's do a show here on Health Futures. And by the way, Health Futures, you can catch us on any podcast. You can catch us on Google. You can catch us on Apple. We've been doing this for 13 years. Once you're done listening, Does Grandmother Have ADHD? Listen to my podcast after that.
Health Futures. Okay, thank you so much, Bob. What a great conversation. Because I am committed to my audience making the rest of their life the best of their life. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jami. Make it a great day.
The opinions expressed on Grandma Has ADHD podcast are those of our guests and hosts and are intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not provide medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. The content discussed in this episode is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, mental health professional, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or mental health concern. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of Grandma Has ADHD do not assume any liability for the content of this podcast. Listen at your own discretion.